Have you ever seen someone lock their car keys in their car or go to board an international flight but forget their passport? It's a painful, expensive experience that just makes you hurt, and the Minecraft experience can be even worse. Like the people who smelt redstone, misunderstand bone, and even a Minecraft developer made this mistake that might just make you moan. Here are 18 life-ruining mistakes in Minecraft and how you can avoid them, and I won't do the standard YouTuber thing where I say make sure you stay to the end, because instead I'm taking you there right now to show you this an end platform. The reason I need to show you this is I've made a painful mistake relating to this because it's a 6x6 piece of obsidian that generates when you enter the end, and it's really useful to know about this because if you want to decorate it, as you are very much in your rights to do, you might realize you've made a painful mistake because every time you come to the end, it resets. Because if you leave your end and then re-enter, then you might just find that what was previously there is now gone. This is not a bug, but instead intentional game design. To reuse some Minecraft phraseology, the 6x6 obsidian platform will always generate with nothing above it to prevent you from spawning into the end and dying immediately. This is something that is very valuable, that isn't very intuitive, but it does result in an infinite source of obsidian if you really want it to, because if you mine any of the blocks from this obsidian pillar, let's say you really want to make a giant nether portal, and then you try the exact same thing, you might just notice the obsidian has healed, meaning you have an infinite source of obsidian, but you need to know that anything placed above it will instantly delete. So a little bit of good, a little bit of bad is the end respawn platform. It's not entirely obvious, just like how it's not entirely obvious that this big empty end actually has a serious death line that you can't see. What is this death line? Well, as you can see, Y0 is the bottom you can build in the end, but somewhere below that, around Y minus 20 or so, you end up taking massive full damage from the invisible barrier below the end, and this will end up killing you and all of your stuff will be gone. This actually caught me off guard and really did mess with the recording of this video because my plan was to show you how you could use a twisting vine in the end, but instead I'll show you all of the alternatives because coming to the end without any way to reduce your full damage is a dumb idea. This is the dimension which is literally founded on the idea of having dragons knock you into the sky and shulkers which give you the levitation effect, and so coming here without a way to soften those blows is dumb. The classic example is always the water bucket or the MLG bucket when used effectively like this, but the hay bale will also work, although it only reduces damage, and if you really do go to the end islands and don't manage to bring something with you, then the chorus fruit is incredibly effective. This is not just effective in the end, but will also work in the nether, fun fact. If you're flying around or are knocked in the air in the nether, then using a chorus fruit is absolutely fire, and I mean that in the most literal sense. This is literally the hell dimension, a place known for its fire, and short of bringing a fire extinguisher with you, there are a few things you can do to reduce that burden on yourself, so don't just walk around the nether and assume that netherrack is a great thing. Instead, use some blocks that are actually anti-flammable. So for example, stone and bricks, when you light these on fire, the fire will go out eventually, but perhaps just as crucially, they help you avoid another huge mistake, which is that they are blast resistant, so one ghast explosion isn't going to ruin your life, just like how it definitely has for mine at some point. Speaking of having your life ruined, let's go to the overworld and go check out a village now, because the next mistake is one that really pains me because it's so easy to make, and I've done so myself, and it's coming across a village that you want to save for later. You think, ooh, I should come back here and do some trading, but not lighting the place up. This seems like a logical choice. I mean, it's already partially lit anyway, but bear in mind these torches are 3 blocks above the ground, and Minecraft cares about surface lighting for the calculation of mob spawns. As you can see, those zombies are already spawning dangerously close to this village, and so the minimum you should do when you come to a village is just place a few lights around. They don't need to be anything fancy, just place some torches or some lava, or if you really don't have any of those things, just use your flint and steel, light up the village in the safest way you can, but what you really need to make sure doesn't happen is mob spawning anywhere near your village. Sometime that you're nearby but you don't know it, perhaps while mining or something else, you might run across a bunch of zombies might run across the village, and they might end up wanting to turn the village into a zombie village. If that happens, you won't have anything left, just an empty carcass that used to house some villagers, which is why I recommend having the maximum amount of lighting possible. As you can see, I've got a very high quality solution. Did you know, by the way, greater than 99% of house fires happen to people statistically who aren't subscribed to the IBX Toycat YouTube channel. I'm not going to say anything about these statistics or how they came to be, but if you subscribe to the channel, I imagine it decreases your odds. Probably, that's definitely how stats work. Speaking of how stats work, when you run across a village and you're thousands of blocks away from spawn, or even just hundreds of blocks away from your base, it's always worth setting your spawn. So many people don't do this, thinking, yeah, but I'll just be back home, and then you die at some point and you you regret everything in life. So just set your spawn. It doesn't matter if you actually go to sleep or not, although you actually do need to have the respawn set message come up. Set your spawn at every village you come across. That is, if you're going somewhere where you think you'd need your stuff again if you died. If you do happen to die, an underappreciated thing you could do is place a little sign to permanently, whoa, not a baby zombie, I hate these guys. So if you do die to a baby zombie, as is inevitable because of how bad they suck, placing a little sign to represent where you died, how you died, etc. might be a fun way to memorialize your world. So RIP Toycat 2023 baby zombie if you really want to. This is something I feel like a lot of people miss. It's not a regret or anything, but it's a regret you might have if you don't do it. More seriously though, Jesus, the game wants me dead today, but it also wants me to have this birch sapling right here, and a really great way that you could also memorialize your death point is by having a little tree. However, that tree will eventually grow up unless you place some string above it, right? I'm sorry, I need the string. But yeah, if you place string above a tree, that tree will never be able to grow no matter how much bone meal you use. However, this is something I see people doing basically accidentally to themselves all the time, and it's something that pains me so much. The amount of bone meal that has been wasted on trees that will never grow is far too high, and so here's a useful tip. Make sure before using bone meal that the place you actually are ready to grow will actually work. So for example, you cannot bone meal sugarcane above 3 blocks. You can bone meal it up to 3 blocks, but you won't be able to do any higher, but the game won't waste any green on that, which is, I think, logical, but it will if you place your sapling in the wrong spot. This sapling is too close to an existing tree, and so I'm going to continuously use bone meal. If you're not sure if your tree is in the right spot, like over here, looks like it might work, for example, if you're not sure, use 4 bone meal, and if 4 doesn't work, then it usually won't work past that point. Why does bone meal work in such a weird, inconsistent way? I don't know. I like the old system where you used the bone meal and it either worked or it didn't, but they decided to nerf it, and this is the inevitable outcome. Make sure you use 4 bone meal, but never any more. 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we don't need to do any more because, as you can see, it's never going to work. Just like how it's never going to work if with me and you in this relationship we're having, if you think that digging down is a good idea. I mean, obviously, it actually is a great idea that works all the time. When you dig straight down like this, though, you avoid any risk of failure because even if something terrible were to spawn there, let's say lava, simulated with water here, you will not fall into it because as long as you're between 2 blocks, you can never fall into a bad thing from one. So break down as much as you like, or even, if you want to go real crazy, you could start using chorus fruit here, and then if you ever did run into a situation where there was lava, you'd be able to get yourself out there. I think a much better alternative to digging down and praying is just to use a water bucket in your inventory, because water will turn nearby lava into a nice little obsidian hole for you, but this is a little bit riskier, and so your mileage may vary. Do whatever feels safest to you, but digging down is honestly not that big of a regret. 9 times out of 10, it goes entirely fine. And so saying never dig down is kind of like saying don't judge a book by its cover. We all know why that's correct advice to say in general, but we also all know that that's actively what a lot of people do all the time, and especially if you're the cover art judger for the year, you really are going to need to do it. So make sure you judge books by their covers, and make sure you dig straight down in Minecraft if you want to. Don't fear that like, oh no, I'm definitely going to fall in lava, because you can do this as many times as you like, and you'll fall in water much more than you'll fall in lava. Actually, yeah, this one could drown you if you weren't familiar with it. So yeah, be careful, or don't be careful. You can be your own boss. Speaking of being your own boss, let's get out of here now. I love chorus fruit. I'm going to try to avoid using them too much, and instead I'm going to show you the elytra, because actually no, instead, let's go and show you something to do with the water, because here is something fun about water you might not know. It actually slowly suffocates you to death. Did you know you can't breathe underwater? This is a weird fact about Minecraft that does not match the real world, but yeah, one of the weird things about not breathing underwater is it means that eventually you start to take damage. So how do you breathe underwater? Well, the easy solution is magma, right? Too many people forget there even is an oxygen bar until you go deep underwater, but the big mistake many people make to do with these magma blocks is how exactly the oxygen even gets to you. And here is a valuable lesson. It will get to you when you're standing on the block. It won't get to you if there's a block above that. And you know, again, I really feel this mistake because look at it, I'm standing above the magma, but it doesn't work because there's a block in the way. This is a mistake that a Minecraft developer made while touring my world. Not only the first time, not realizing that you have to crouch on these because it's terrible, but the other mistake that he made was actually putting a trapdoor above it, which you'd figure would still allow the bubbles to come through, right? The trapdoor should make that work. However, if you're ever at a point where you're avoiding the damage from the magma that isn't crouching or frostwalker, then you're probably in a situation where the bubbles aren't going to come and you're not going to be able to breathe. Speaking of not being able to breathe, if you want the easiest way to both avoid the magma and be able to do that, I find the best one is to stand, again, this is the 2-block technique again. Look at this, you can stand in the middle of the 2 blocks, and as long as there's not a drowned actively attacking you, you can actively breathe while still not being exposed to the harmful plasma toxins or whatever's in magma that makes it hurt so much. I mean, it's got to be chemicals that make magma hurt so much, right? That's the only reason this block is so painful, just like how the only reason dying is so painful is because you lose your stuff, right? By the way, the death earlier, this is a copy of my Let's Play world, just in case you're concerned. And, you know, that's a useful pro tip if you're trying to, like, tour a world, show some weird things off, and do some dangerous stuff, is make sure you're prepared for the eventuality of death. But this is something a lot of people don't do when they fly their Elytra, because you assume once you get to the point where you have wings, you're basically invincible. And so people start doing some really silly stuff. However, especially on the Java edition, you will take a lot of damage when you hit objects, so it's important to use your fireworks wisely. One of these ways is not continuously using them. It really brings me so much pain to watch people just use firework after firework after firework, flying directly where they want to. But if I want to get to, let's say, that birch tree over there, or let's pick something further away, that iceberg biome over there, rather than firing a firework right at it, fire the firework in the air, and then just as it's running out, start to curve down. The only thing, you know, the best way to use an Elytra and get the most out of each firework is to actually fly up into the air first, and then glide towards what you'd like to do. Even if you think you're going to overshoot it, like, oh, I know, I want this iceberg here, all you have to do is let go in midair and then reactivate it. This is only possible on the Big Salmon edition, sadly. But yeah, it is really easy to control an Elytra without wasting fireworks and without risk of killing yourself. Because think about it, not only are you wasting more fireworks to fly directly at what you want to, you know, that's a terrible thing too, but you're putting yourself at way higher risk of hitting a random obstacle along the way, which is bad. Dying to kinetic energy, not good, but you know what is good? Not dying to those things. Speaking of Big Salmon Edition, by the way, there's a few big differences to do with the ocean on Bedrock to Java. One of those is the huge salmon, but also it means that something you should really be keeping an eye out if you think you have no food, oh, I've only got 14 mutton, I'm gonna die any second now, is make sure you keep an eye on the ocean. You're never really foodless while you have the ocean. You can go manually fishing, and as you see right there, you don't just get raw salmon, you also get bones. This is 2 high-quality resources from the same mob that literally spawns endlessly in the ocean, as you can see. By the way, this is proof. Big salmon is not fat salmon. Big salmon is just big boned. We have big factual proof here. But yeah, when you get your hands on one of these big salmon, it's really great because you get bones, which you could use to grow crops, as well as some salmon to tide you over in the meantime. This is so overwhelmingly handy, and a lot of people don't realize just how much you can do once you get your hands on this dude. Another thing people don't realize is that you should be careful when there are dolphins around because, you know, if you're trying to kill drowns or whatever else, you might accidentally hit the dolphin by accident. Oh, well, if you have a diamond sword, you're fine. But if you hit a dolphin, you're going to seriously enrage other dolphins in the area, which can be the least that you need. Seriously, they're doing so much damage. I have armor on. This is easy difficulty, and they're wrecking me right now. So yeah, you should keep in mind that especially in the early game, the oceans are the scariest place for you to be. Not only can you drown going down there, not only are there drowns trying to kill you, but also one wrong punch while trying to defend yourself, and all of a sudden you've got a swarm of very angry, very intelligent beasts coming after you. You know, people say dolphins are so intelligent, but if they're so smart, why are they living underwater? Why don't they have the internet? Why aren't they making Minecraft videos? Okay, well, I guess you wouldn't have to be intelligent to do that. Just like how you wouldn't have to be intelligent to realize that creepers explode, but you would probably have to be to take advantage of being swarmed by mobs and realizing that one of those mobs can take out all of the rest. Stay at the perfect distance away from a creeper, and all of a sudden, the rest of your problems can halve. And in fact, just to show you how little health these guys will have left, one hit with the shovel for each of these will definitely take them out. Okay, 2 hits from a shovel from him, and 2 hits from him as well. But still, the fact is, they lost the vast majority of their health if they could be killed by a 5 attack damage weapon in just 1 to 2 hits. If you want to decimate a horde of enemies, use the creeper tactically. Don't just ignore the creeper and hope that it doesn't become your problem, because creeper explosions are almost inevitable if one is following you. Make sure you use it to your advantage rather than against it. So here is a creeper and a bunch of gravel, for example. Let's place a block between me and it. No damage done, but now I've searched the gravel and I've concluded that it is all gravel. You know, that's good to see. But yeah, there are things like this that are important to do. Oh, look at this, by the way. Ah, there's a cave with some light going on here. Oh, it's just grass that has spawned underground, which you'd have to be silly to think was a real biome. Another mistake I make all the time, mostly out of laziness, is not keeping track of where I find these amethyst geodes. This is a valuable resource in your world that you're not going to realize you need until it's too late. So whether you want to destroy the entire thing now and take it with you, besides the budding amethyst, of course, because you cannot break budding amethyst. You always think, yeah, you have a silk touch pickaxe. Surely you can do this. I don't have a silk touch pickaxe. I don't have a silk touch anything, but you might figure silk touch pickaxe. Surely you can do it. No, it doesn't work that way, and when you break it, the sound is just pain. Oh, why am I doing this to myself? Like I said, has to be a copy for me to even bring myself to do that. But yeah, the truth is you should keep track of where these things are in your world, because otherwise you'll be like, where did I lose that? What's happening there? Another mistake I see people making is when you're far away from world spawn, or indeed you don't know what time of day it is, crafting a compass or a clock. This is something I can understand if you're using them so often, but if you just need to tell the time one time, here's a really fun fact. So type in, well, you know what, wait until you're safe. Maybe light up the area like it's a village you care about or something. But yeah, as you can see, by the way, I let the creeper explode. He dealt a little bit of damage to me, but now he's not going to kill me, which is really nice. If you want to get yourself a clock rather than crafting one, look, it takes gold and redstone. All you have to do is look at the crafting table output on the right here, and you'll see a fully functioning clock. The same is true for the compass. And again, it's so rare you need a compass, but you can just type it in and it will show you exactly where your world spawn is. And to prove that that's actually working, because it might be hard to prove, let's go on this side now and then type in compass, and wow, it's actually moved to the left. My world spawn is over there, as we could prove by using it. Oh yeah, over there, as we could prove quite easily. And the respawn compass is over in the end, because that's where I died most recently, I think. Anyway, my point is to say that yeah, if you want to use any of these resources, recovery compass, or clock, don't craft it, just use the crafting table, because Minecraft is a bit of a funky game. And one of those ways is that the clock was already useless, but now you have even less reason to use it. So why are you using it? The answer is you're not using it. You're using the crafting table as a makeshift compass, because if the crafting table can tell you what a compass would tell you, you don't need a compass, right? Speaking of not needing a compass, going into a cave is a real bad idea when you go in by yourself. And I know some people swear by the placing torches on the left side when exploring a new cave, but let me give you a much better and definitely more efficient technique. Use a furnace and fuel it up. Using, I don't know, whatever you're mining today, and then that way you'll always be able to see, you'll light up the cave, and also you'll see furnaces on your left-hand side. Honestly, this is one of those tips that's like really smart, but I just hate to use. The left-hand side thing makes sense, I also just hate it, just like how I hate the idea of using redstone, or diamonds, or gold, or iron, or any ore block directly in a furnace. This technically works, and does technically give you experience, and so some people might say, what's the harm in it? So if you have a silk touch tool, and you desperately need some redstone, surely this is the best way to do it. And the answer to that is no. No, it never is. When you use fortune, like a normal person, when you mine a block, you get 1 to 4 if you have fortune 3, which gives you a lot more raw gold, or gives you a lot more redstone, or gives you wait, let's look for some redstone, or gives you a lot more diamonds. Every single ore that you can, man, there's so much gold under here. Every single ore that you can mine is best mined with a fortune pickaxe, if only for the fact that you can combine them together. Smelting redstone is a worse deal, not just because, you know, you're wasting fuel, not just because you get 1 redstone instead of up to 4, but also because the experience given when smelting is always less than the experience you get while mining. So why are you throwing away 22 redstone dust? Wow, that's a lot, huh? Why are you throwing away 23 redstone dust when you could be getting a lot more. It's the worst offender for it, but yeah, it's true for everything else. All the way up to diamonds. Diamond ore is one of the best sources of XP when mined, and so why would you give up spare diamonds and that unless you're flexing? And if you're flexing, why are you smelting it using coal? You should of course be using jukeboxes to smelt it. You know, that's a fun, silly short on the channel, huh? Speaking of fun and silly shorts, my final tip today relates to things that are very high up. This is mostly for the overworld and the end, because this is where water can be placed, but it's really important to note that when you're placing down water at these heights, you're going to create a lot of flowing water blocks. Most people just assume, yeah, this is water, that is water, but there's a crucial difference between water source blocks and the water flowing blocks, which comes in really crucially if you are to, say, have overlapping paths. So now we've got two separate bits of water, as you can see right here, and everything's working entirely fine, unless I decide to remove one of these waters. Wait, why can't I remove them? Oh, pro tip, you can only remove water at the world height from below it, but on Bedrock it's really tricky to do that, so just keep it in mind that you gotta really do some stuff. But now we choose to remove this water, and there's lots of things happening every single time it's removed, and this is probably just about fine if we stay near it, but never leave flowing water. This is a mistake that I have made myself, and I see people make all the time. It leads to huge, look, I'll show you from the distance here. We fly away and we go all the way over to like this little cherry grove right here where it's snowing, and then we look back at our water and we see that, wait a minute, has it stopped unflowing? It has. In fact, look at this. One of the columns isn't touching the ground, and the reason for this is the way that chunk boundaries work and simulation distance works in Minecraft, which leads to some really weird things. If some of your water is rendered in and some of it is not, then some of that water is going to do stuff that the other one is not expecting, and it's going to lead to all sorts of weird things, like this water potentially being permanently stuck up there. So yeah, pro tip, when you are placing water up high, make sure you know exactly what you're doing, and when you're removing water up high, make sure you do it and you stay with it until it's all gone. Otherwise, very bizarre things can happen, like this water, which is now going to stay there forever. Speaking of staying there forever, if you subscribe to the channel, you're actually locked in for life. You can't just choose to unsubscribe at any time. It's not free to unsubscribe. You can't do it any time. It takes so much effort. It's like a huge button. It costs a lot of money probably, and so, you know, I can understand why you have reservations, but have you considered that hitting subscribe makes that number go up very slightly, and so maybe you should do it for that reason. Also, have you considered all those reasons were fake, but except the one about the number going up? So if you would like to see my subscriber count go one higher, I know I would like to see that. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you appreciate all the effort that went into it, because I'll see you in the next one. I'm actually in Scotland as this goes up. Ooh, that's fun. Also, I've got my stream, got a little random 0 on the screen there. That is the production value that you can subscribe to increase, probably. Thank you for watching. You know what, while I'm here anyway, if it's a copy of the world regardless, I might as well do the most enjoyable thing possible and break a scaffold from the bottom. Isn't that fun? That's the sort of fun you can only get on this channel. Anyway, see you next time. Bye.